Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster, and today I've got a 2 versus 3 siege battle for you. I've actually never seen this map before, and it's currently covered in fog, so we'll have to discover it as we go through it. But as far as I know, this is brand new. I don't think it's ever been shown on YouTube before, so that's always exciting. But let's have a little look here at the actors involved. So, on the side of the attackers, we have the House of Boar, played by Panthen of Barsoom. He's got some Wardens of Thargelion, Heavy Spearmen, really nice with their AoE morale buff. Helps keep things a little bit more stable on your line. Boar, of course, already has excellent morale, but that just helps them a little bit further. Be that kind of drag it down, knock them out, grind faction. Some Axemen of Thargelion as well. A little bit of an interesting unit, a little bit different from some of the regular Axemen in previous iterations of Silmarillion Total War. They're a little bit more themed around boar, and they're sort of more defensive nature, so they don't have the greatest charge value, which is something that normally Axemen are quite known for, but they do have a really high base attack, which translates into like 15 or 16 damage on the field. I almost said on the tabletop. I've been playing a lot of Warhammer, so I will probably do that several times throughout the video. Forgive me in advance. But yeah, they have a lot of extra damage, which is something that I think Boar really needs. So it ended up being a nice compromise between the more defensive nature of a lot of the Boar roster and the offensive needs that they kind of have to compete in the meta. Skirmishes with Thargelion, I believe these are harassment javelins, so not a whole lot of heavy armor-piercing damage, but they do have a lot of range, a lot of ammunition, and a decent amount of men in the unit as well. Lots of halberdiers of Thargelion here, wielding their brand new halberds made for us by the team. And that's going to be excellent in a siege. Any sort of grindy engagement, that's where Boar is really going to excel. Got some Wanderers of Thargelion here, which I believe is a new unit in the update. And yeah, just your kind of standard bowmen. One thing to note, though, is that shielded bowmen actually have a little bit less range now, just to sort of set them apart, not make them just head and shoulders above other archers of their type, class, weight, etc., etc. So, a little bit less range on them, but they do have the extra survivability gained from that shield. Over here, we've got a unit of Macemen of Lothline, which is exclusive to the artillery, and specifically the ballista artillery that they are carrying. At least I do believe that's the case. Some Amberone Honor Guard here with their brand new models given us by Castellan of Angmar, the man himself. And I think that pretty much covers most of the Boar army. Lots of spears, lots of heavy units, obviously built for that grind, and then a few skirmisher units to support them as well. Well, what do you know? Some more Easterlings over here. So the House of Ulfang and Boar, I think it was in this update. We actually split them into two different factions, so now they're no longer just one united Easterling faction. Got the Fangs of the Faithless here, looking like Dracula out on the field, and they are largely the same as you've always seen them. Just a little bit of a facelift here to bring them in line with the new Easterling aesthetic. Forgers of Lothland, these are going to be very cheap harassment javelins. Ulfang's going to have a lot of things like this, but what they don't have outside of the Fangs of the Faithless is really good archers. They do have some mounted bow cavalry, but they're quite fragile and lower tier, which means their range is a little bit lower. They compensate for that somewhat with their numbers, but it does make them very, very vulnerable to counterfire, so they can't really be relied upon to win a skirmish fight, but they are really good for supporting the rest of the short range and really dangerous melee troops that Ulfang has at their disposal. So a couple units there of the Foragers, some more harassment javelins, Despoilers of Dor Caranthier. Very scary indeed, uses some of the old assets we had for the previous Easterlings. We didn't really want to let them go because they are so pretty. And these guys are going to be relentless, which means they don't have any flinching animation. Really is a big increase for their damage. They are anti-cavalry, as are most of the Falx units in Ulfang, and they've also got a lot of extra speed. And this particular unit, in fact, also has fear. So a little bit of a niche here. They are quite expensive, but they are very fragile as well. But obviously they do bring a lot to the table. So some more Huntsmen of Lothland. These are going to be the mounted version of, I believe, the Foragers. That's going to be more harassment javelins here, just a little bit of mobility. Ulfang is all about that. Rogers of Himring hanging out. on the front lines. I think the only thing really different about them in the update is that they are no longer locked morale. There are still some locked morale units within Ulfang, but that is something that this particular unit no longer has access to. That being said, they have been greatly improved in a number of different ways, especially with the buffs to the Falk's weapon profile. And in particular, light infantry like this do have a really strong melee defense, and they are very quick. Not a lot of defenses against ranged attacks, as you would expect from light infantry, but yeah, they're able to move quickly around the battlefield, and they still have those nasty throwing axes. Elf Hunters of Dor Caranthir, two-handed spear unit. This is the crew of the Ulfang Ballista, and unique to this as well. So you won't be able to bring these just on their own. You will have to take a ballista in order to gain access to them. We've got some tribesmen here. These are shielded light infantry Falks units. They are largely fodder, but they can punch up against cavalry for sure, and they make up a little bit of extra numbers. That being said, if things go wrong, if things start to turn against Ulfang, this is not a unit that can be expected to hold the line. Let's see over here. More of Nifredir, the Shadowhunters army. More Marauders of Himring. We've already discussed them. Scouts of Lothlin. This is an interesting unit. So it is a slinger, but it is different from other slingers. It's got extra range, more base damage, but it does not have any armor piercing. So this is going to be a really nice anti-archer unit. It is a little bit lower in range than basically 75% of the archers in the game, but it is an option to give Ulfang just something that doesn't leave them completely at the mercy of heavy archer factions like, say, Assyriand or Mithrim or things like that. So you will take a lot of casualties on these units, but they are correspondingly cheap, so you can really throw them at the enemy and not worry too much about their health and safety. Sons of Ulfang in the back here, pretty well the same big scary bodyguard unit that they've always been. Still have that AP and a little bit of extra armor, I think, as well. Now, this is a brand new unit, and we haven't really done much of a deep dive on the Berserkers, so I will just give you a rundown here. This is a Berserk unit. Now we are using EOP, the Engine Overhaul Project, or something like that, and you have access to units that have Berserk, similar to the old Rome Total War game. So they will, once they charge, they will lose control, and they will just start doing all kinds of damage. They have a little spin to win animation, and they also get area attacks and become unbreakable. That being said, near as we can tell, this effect is tied to morale, and they do seem to need to get a charge off most of the time in order to activate it. So what I mean by it's tied to morale is that morale shocks will actually snap them out of their Berserker Frenzy, which is a little bit of a downfall. And outside of it, they are not very good at all. They do have lots of HP, but as you probably guessed by their bare-chested manliness, they don't have very strong defenses against missiles, and there are tons of missiles in the game. So there's a lot of counterplay to units like this. And also, once you lose control of them, sometimes they run across the battlefield. But if you can get them into a blob, into a good position, this is absolutely a game-winning unit in the right hands and under the right circumstances. More Marauders of Himring hanging out here. And then we got some Tribesmen of Lothlin out front of his army as well. So I think that's going to do for all the units that we can see anyways. Let's pop on over to this side. The Blessed Realm of Valinor has allied themselves with the Traitors. This is going to be played by Tommy the Rage Quitter. We've got another Sling unit here. So there's a lot of diversity amongst our Sling units. These guys are a little bit similar to the previous Ulfang unit, but there's a lot less of them. They are more expensive. And they don't have as high base damage, but they do have a split shot, so they're excellent for dealing with crowds of lighter infantry and lighter skirmishers. So a little bit of a role difference there, whereas the Ulfang units are really designed to go after archers, and they can go after other lighter skirmishers and things like that as well. This is an excellent crowd control unit that can do a lot of damage to light and medium infantry under the right circumstances. So yeah, potentially a very scary, lots of kind of kill potential on a unit like this, and they also have maces afterwards, and they've been made a little bit more stable in that they are treated, I believe, as light infantry, so they do have better morale than what they had previously, giving them that little bit of extra staying power. But yeah, moving on here, we got the Peacekeepers. This is a medium spear unit of Vanyar Elves. They do have an armor-piercing melee attack, and they've also got a Precursor Javelin, which is really nothing special, just about 10 damage. It's less than, and it has no AP, so it's less than the damage of throwing axes by a significant margin, probably between 6 to 8 or so damage, so quite a lot. And it also doesn't have any armor piercing of the other two harassment and or hunter javelin types. It's a lot to take in. I know you will get it. But it is just free extra damage, so can't really go too wrong with that. So there's some Peacekeepers there. That's another unit here of Peacekeepers. We got some Mariners of Aqualande, some light skirmish units. Valinor as a faction really does... They've got an interesting thing going. So they've got a lot of multiple HP units that are very powerful. Borderline, like, if you could take nothing but those units, Valinor would absolutely be completely overpowered. But they are very small, they're very expensive, and they are quite low in number as well. So they really need these supporting units like the Mariners of Aqualande, who are a particularly adept unit of harassment javelins. Over here, we've got the Hearthguard of Tyrion, and heavy infantry line unit. They've got a little bit of a numbers boost, and they're just kind of there to plug holes in your line and just be fearsome, which they can absolutely do. A little bit less damage, though, more defensively oriented than a two-handed version, that being the Sentinels of Tyrion. Over here we got the Grieving Sons. This is the new Valinor. What's the word what's the term I gave them again? Wow, excuse me, I can't even forget my own, or I can't even remember my own nomenclature. Legendary companies. This is the legendary company for Valinor. They used to be a two-handed spear or sword unit rather, but now they are a hunter javelin unit, which is the only one that Valinor has available to them, and they're a little bit more geared towards fighting monsters and countering heavy infantry, which is a lot more important in the new update than it really ever has been previously. Like, you could kind of get by, you know, without like a lot of AP against like big monster factions, but now you really do need it, and especially against heavy infantry factions as well. So moving on over here, we have Mariners of Alcalande. We have one of the new artillery units. These are basically magic using Maiar. They're the only faction, I believe, outside of Tolan Gowrhoth and factions that contain higher beings like Morgoth and Sauron and things like that. And they've replaced all of their standard artillery pieces. These are a little bit shorter range than your average catapult, but they are capable of extreme devastation. They're much more maneuverable and a little bit harder to kind of pin down, but you do have to get a lot closer, which is something that we really wanted to do, or at least I really wanted to do with Valinor. Not just let them be able to kind of sit back with their powerful magic units and just pick at you. They actually have to get close, which means that you can respond to them. So that the power of these units is kind of, it's balanced out, counterbalanced, I suppose, by the fact that they have to be close, and that puts them within arm's reach, and you can kind of hit them back. More Peacekeepers of Valinor here, Mariners, more Hearthguard of Tyrion, and I feel like he's got to have, there's maybe a general bodyguard that we're missing here. Can't just be mostly light infantry and Peacekeepers, can it? Well, apparently he can. He went really heavy into the Peacekeepers of Valinor. He's brought, I think 4 of them, and none of the Plaza Guard, which is quite surprising, actually. But maybe this is made kind of with supporting Ulfang in mind, and they're just going for a really numbers-focused approach here with a little bit of the elites of Valinor to be able to fall back on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn up the speed here just a little bit. I'm going to take a look at the defending armies, who are apparently, defending a cathedral. Now, there's going to be a lot of weird elevation changes here, which does kind of make the camera go crazy, so prepare yourself for that. House of Gondolin on the defense today, being played by Captain Gervais. He's brought some Blade Masters of Barad-Ithel, and they have, I believe, their second armor upgrade, which gives them a sort of partial plate appearance. And potentially a very, very scary unit. Very good at, I would say, taking on almost all comers. They do struggle a little bit more against like heavily armored infantry because they don't have armor piercing. But there's a lot of units in the game, light, medium, and even heavy infantry to a point that these guys can be very scary against. They do have really strong melee defense, and they pair that with relatively decent heavy infantry armor, although they are kind of classified as medium. They can upgrade into that heavy class if you're willing to invest a little bit more into them. So very versatile, absolutely the core of Fingolfin armies. And then we've got some Sentries of Hithlum in the back here, which is just going to be some of the men of House Hador, I believe. Equipped and armored, etc. in that sort of elven style. These are going to be some medium pikemen. A little bit more damage focused than other more defensive pikemen like the Finarfin brand. But yeah, really nice units that work actually quite well together. You can pair Blade Masters of Baradithel and the Pikemen together in a battle line, and they can do extremely well for you as long as you don't get yourself shot to death. Up here we have some Marines of Vinyamar, a little bit of a hybrid unit. They do have a limited clutch of Hunter Javelins, just to give Fingolfin some anti-elephant, anti-armor punch that's not relying entirely upon people throwing their elephants and cavalry and things like that at pike walls, which people almost never do. So, as a practical measure, it was necessary, I think, to kind of change the way this unit works a little bit. They used to be harassment javelins, but now they are basically a medium infantry hybrid, and they have those aforementioned hunter javelins as well. Up here, Herdsmen of Hithlum. There we go. Another unit that has undergone a pretty dramatic transformation in the new patch. We're going to go ahead and turn things down here because we might have some early action going on here, and I don't want to miss anything. The Herdsmen have changed quite a lot. So since Two-Handed Axes lost their armor piercing, and now they're more of a anti-horde, anti-chaff kind of unit, that can do an absolutely hideous amount of damage to even armored things off the charge with their massive charge bonus. It was kind of necessary, I think, in order to keep Fingolfin relevant in the meta, because they don't have a ton of armor piercing. We've looked at a bunch of units just now, and limited armor piercing at best kind of thing. So they have been given maces, and maces and things like that have really been shifted, and the anti-armor sort of things have been shifted away from heavy infantry and mostly given as sort of utility things to light and medium infantry. So that's something that you're going to see across most of the units in the game. There are some exceptions here and there that we kind of needed to be necessary or were useful for unit flavor, faction flavor, etc. So now they are still a hybrid. They don't have a ton of ammunition. Fingolfin never really was a skirmish powerhouse, and they still are not. But they have shields, so again, a little bit less range, but extra survivability. And they've got maces as well, so they're a nice little supplementary battle line unit that can be used to basically support some of your heavier Noldor troops. Got some Herdsmen of Dorloman here. They're still light infantry, light spearmen. They do essentially the same thing that they have always done. They got some pikes there in behind them. It's a nice little formidable line. Not going to kill a lot of things with all those big pointy sticks, surprisingly enough. However, this is something that can last for a very long time, if well supported. Once they start to get tired, or if things start to really go wrong, they are still, especially the Herdsmen, are like lower tier militia, and these are only mid tier, so they will run, but very efficient line holding units for sure. More Marines of Vinyamar, Sons of Hurin. They're no longer 2 HP, but they have actually had their numbers increased. I don't think they have Relentless. Maybe they do. Maybe it's Relentless they have. No, they have Lock Morale, so they don't have Relentless, but they are still Lock Morale, so a potentially very scary unit here. Absolutely a ton of brutal damage that can come in from these guys, and even though they lack that armor piercing, they kind of have enough damage and charge value that it almost doesn't matter, because it's so high relative to everything else. So, yeah, potentially very scary unit. Herdsmen of Hithlum hanging out up here on the battlements. Another unit there of the Herdsmen of Hithlum. Oof, yeah, the camera really doesn't like the elevations. Up here we have some Armitar of Baradithel, who are very much the sort of same thing they've always been. But they actually can upgrade into this fancy new armor set given us by Castellan of Angmar. You can see some Harumatar in there as well. So basically these are elite detachments of existing swordsmen that are already present in the roster. But they do add a little bit of extra utility. They got better armor. The two-handed version, I believe, has Relentless. The sword and board version is very, very hard to shift, especially with armor upgrades and things like that. And they believe they also buff morale. So they're sort of, think of them as royal guardsmen, if you would prefer. Court guards, things like that, noble escorts, etc. But on the battlefield, yes, very much a support role, but they can really punch well above their weight, being as small as they are and only having 1 HP. That being said, lots of things can really put the hurt on them. Hunter Javelins being the thing that springs immediately to mind. Nothing up here in the town center that we can see. I think that's most of the Fingolfin army, at least what's available for us to to be able to see right away. And then we'll move on down here to the hidden city of Gondolin. And we get to start with a brand new unit. This is the legendary company, the Phalanx of the King. Another beautiful model given us by Castellan of Angor, actually made specifically for us. They're a pike unit. They are Noldor. Actually, I think they're a blend of Noldor and Sindar. Racial distinctions do carry some pretty meaningful buffs, penalties, etc., in the new system. These guys are kind of a blend of the two, as Gondolin had both Noldor and Sindar present. So they kind of combine a lot of really strong buffs, but pound for pound, they're not as strong as the bodyguard of the king, which I believe are a 1 HP bodyguard still available to Gondolin. Got some Scouts of the Tree mixed in there as well. I get to talk about all of the slingers today. This is just a regular kind of sling unit, low damage, but AP, and has some really strong range as well. They've also got maces after the fact, so they can be extremely powerful when it comes to dealing with armor. I don't know if you guys can hear those sirens in the background, but yeah, my apologies. I had my window open. Over here we have the Champions of the Fountain. Two-handed swordsmen. They are 1 HP, but they are very heavily armored Noldor units, especially in the new update. Noldor, super heavily armored. Very, very difficult to beat down in melee, but obviously vulnerable to armor piercing. And they also have the Relentless trait as well. I think they cause fear, and they've got a morale buff, if memory serves. It's not a lot. It's like +2 in 25 meters, but hey, it's still something. So a very, very strong unit all around. Not a ton of numbers, though, as you can see there. Only 103 men in the unit, 3 of which are bannermen, and very expensive as well. So it's not something you just want to throw away lightly. Spearmen of the Swallow, just a little hybrid mid-tier unit here for Gondolin to help them bat out their lines. Not a ton of ammunition, but they are also hybrids, which is a new distinction I haven't really talked about in the new patch, which confers, I believe it's like 10% additional buffs to like melee defense, damage, things like that. But they do cost a little bit extra, and they don't generally have the same ammunition as like purely specialized units. So a bit of a trade-off. You do pay a bit more, but you get what you pay for, certainly. Down here we have the Lords of the Golden Flower. Everybody knows these guys. They are scary, scary indeed. They still have their big bonuses versus Balrogs. Not really going to come into play here. There's not really any elephants on the field across from them. You can see Glorfindel himself leading the nobles of his house. But they're just extremely powerful swordsmen. Otherwise, they are relentless. I believe they also can't be routed, or it's extremely hard to do so. I think they've got like 22, 23 morale, so very difficult to make these guys run. And it looks like King Torgon, with his little staff of office and his sword, which we probably should shift out for Glamdring, I think. Both present in his hands there. And, yeah, Lords of the Golden Flower, they kick ass. Some more Fingolfin units over here. Apparently we've got some sentries of Hithlum, and more of the spread out this way. More Ferdsmen, so there is a lot more to the Fingolfin army. I thought it seemed a little bit small. It wasn't exactly going quality heavy with them. More Marines of Vinyamar. A lot of light, medium troops. Looks like Gondolin has spread out over here as well. Ooh, some Dragon Guard. Dragon Guard are of Dor-Lomin, a heavy infantry option that's not Noldor. They are a little bit different from the, say, the Barad-Ithel swordsmen, for example, in that they are, of course, axemen, so they have a lot higher damage, a lot higher charge value. Their armor's not quite as good as the Noldor. Actually, I think it's significantly worse, probably about to the tune of maybe 4 to 5 points of armor, so a lot. But they are a little bit faster, and they have some throwing axes with a bit extra range. They trade off damage for range in this case, but still can be very, very useful, especially in any kind of skirmish situation. These guys can stand up to a lot of punishment from the front. And yeah, overall, just a little bit of a twist on the standard line infantry that you see from a lot of Noldor factions. And of course, these are men of Dor-Lomin, so the racial distinctions, again, coming into play, make them a little bit different from the Noldor. More Marines of Vinyamar. I think we've seen like 5 units of them so far. Catapult crew here. This is going to be the Axemen of the Gate of Bronze. Again, another unique unit that only exists in our artillery form. You can only get these guys if you're bringing catapult to the battlefield with you. And now we get into some of the real scary Gondolin stuff. Have the Armorers of the Hammer here. Very, very dangerous. Extremely heavily armored, especially in the new update. I think you can get them up to almost 20 armor, which is very, very high for our mod. Guardsmen of the Harp here, a little bit more focused on being kind of a solid line unit. They've got extra numbers. They are Noldor, so they get the armor buffs and a little bit extra damage as well. So all around very reliable and at a really, really strong price point. But this is not a unit that is necessarily going to win you the game. It's still very much a mid-tier, and it can fall away against really stern resistance. Another unit over here of the Armorers of the Hammer. And I've got another catapult out here from Lord of Belagost. So, I think that about does it, at least for the units we can see. Let's go ahead and get this started. It looks like maybe we've got some cavalry action here. Yeah, a little bit of cavalry and skirmish action. This is going to be interesting. So it seems like there's a series of fortifications. Again, I haven't really seen this map before. And there's a lot of mid-range and a decent amount of longer-ranged missiles here as well. This is going to be a tough one, I think, for a lot of these Ulfang troops to attack into. So a really interesting scenario here. Looks like someone's getting a little fresh over on this side. Huntsman of Lothland moving forward, picking on the Spearmen of the Swallow, but they're going to be able to take that on the chin relatively well, thanks to those shields they have on their back. Now, the shields may be on their back, but it does still apply as a bonus to the front of them, and they're going to return fire against these Huntsmen of Lothland. A very vicious, close quarters kind of gunfight here. Spearmen, holding their ground. The Huntsmen of Lothland really taking some pretty serious losses here, but that is going to provide a little bit of cover here, I think, for maybe some of the tribesmen to get up here, and they're going to begin to engage these Spearmen of the Swallow in close quarters. Now, the Spearmen of the Swallow actually have a decent chance to beat these guys up, but it does tie them up, and they're not going to be able to get the most out of their missiles. So now these Huntsmen of Lothland are basically going to be free to do whatever they like. Now, the Armors of the Hammer being thrown in here, probably because they're a lower tier unit, and I think they really want to make the most out of that fear. So if they can really stack the odds against them here, might be able to just rout these guys off with minimal casualties, and that's just a little breakthrough here. Just make this not really a worthy trade. Scouts of Lothland in the background, and probably they're going to start peppering away at some of the Spearmen of the Swallow. Now, they have shields, but it does not make them invincible. It looks like Spearmen were drawn back. The Armorers of the Hammer were drawn back, and they're just kind of ceding ground here. I'm not sure I would have done that. I would have definitely wanted to keep some sort of intervening unit in this area here where my cursor's at. But he's going to get in there quickly with some Guardsmen of the Harp, and the Guardsmen of the Harp are more than capable of dealing with these guys here. But overall, a nice really opening move here for Nifridir the Shadowhunter. He's managed to tie up a lot of these Spearmen, actually kill a decent amount of them, probably 30 to 40 dead, I would say, and really not much in return. All it really cost him is a unit of, half a unit of cheap Huntsmen of Lothland and some low-tier militia who are not going to stand here for too long. Now, let's see what we got going on over here. More missile troops being brought forward, and they're going to start peppering the Spearmen of the Swallow. Now, I would expect the Spearmen with their shields to be able to take that for quite a long time. Now, only a couple of them dying there, a couple of them dying per volley. Not going to be so bad. Maybe you lose 20 Spearmen or something like that, but you do eat up the ammo of an entire unit. So a decent enough trade there. More Spearmen of the Swallow being brought to the fore, probably because there are more of the Easterlings out here in the mists, taking their time and getting themselves into position. Now, Boar is going to have, I think Boar is going to have a great time with a lot of the approaches here. There's not really too many things out here that have a lot of armor piercing, at least not missiles anyway. And they're going to be able to just kind of grind their way through these choke points and probably have a great time of it. Now, little narrow things like this with their halberds are going to do excellent against Noldor infantry. Again, they are quite heavily armored, and those halberds are armor piercing, so that's pretty well as good of an exchange, equitable, I should say, as you can get when playing as men versus elves. So, Guardsmen of the Harp not doing as well as they probably could here. It says the Tribesmen of Lothland are winning, but honestly, I don't believe that for a second. Yeah, there it is. This is going to shift a lot back and forth, so I wouldn't put too much stock into it. But I am seeing a nice little gap here that could allow them to slip in here and really tie down what remains of the Spearmen of the Swallow here. Now, those Ulfsarks are coming forward, and I can only assume that that's being done because these guys are either low on ammo or they think they'll be able to kind of push their way through with these heavy spears here and lock these guys down before they can do any significant damage to the Ulfsarks of hammering. This is definitely a target number one, priority for sure, but looks like maybe Belegost doesn't see it, and he's a little bit focused trying to thin out the herd. There's lots of good little targets here, but yeah, we'll come back to that in just a few minutes. Shoal Hunters of Alqualande moving forward, and I'm not too sure what they're hoping to get a piece of. There's probably a lot of really nice targets here. Oh no, the Sons of Hurin! That would be an excellent opportunity for them. Now, they are relatively heavily armored, but the volume of fire, like, it says there's 100 men in the unit, but it splits into 3. So you're looking at 300 shots here, you know, raking this 1 HP unit. Nice little enfilade. That would be beautiful, but I don't know if they've got the range for it. It looks like not. But yeah, the presence of the Shoal Hunters has definitely forced them out of this choke point, and that's perfectly understandable. Now, what do we got here? That's some Herdsmen of Hithlum. Captain Gervais, if he's not careful here, he might get taken at unawares. Or it's possible that he's just waiting for these guys to come in, and he's going to smash right into them. There's not really any sort of Valinor support nearby, so I think Tommy might be getting a little too big for his boots here, flying too close to the sun, as it were. I know they really want a shot at these guys, but this is just gonna put them under here, which is gonna limit the arc, which is a good idea, but it's the lack of support, I think, that's really could be a big problem here. If he decided that he wanted to commit into these, but it seems like he's just gonna catch Captain Gervais off guard. Oh, you can see that brutal bombardment at play here. Here comes another one. Let's see what they're able to do. Yeah, the shields are serving them in good stead, but it's not quite enough. They are still very light, and you can see those numbers there being thinned down very quickly. And there's seemingly not a lot of a response here from Captain Gervais. Might be that he's limited in what he's able to do. He's maybe shooting over here at the Peacekeepers. Probably not the best. They are medium infantry. Peacekeepers now being brought forward. Yeah, it looks like he sees it, but this would have been a great thing to do a little bit earlier. Even if you were to bring, you know, sentries and things like that out here, you might be able to pull a lot of Valinor expensive troops into this area, especially if you can catch one of the Shoal Hunters. That might have been nice, but it's hard to say. It's easy to backseat drive. Now these herdsmen, unfortunately, a little bit out in the open, absorbing some ammunition, which is nice. It's not like Captain Gervais lacks for bodies currently, but things going a little bit slow over here. So let's pop on over to the other end and see what can be seen. Some Wardens of Argelion now pushing their way forward into the Guardsmen of the Harp, not able to kind of exploit this gap so far and lock down these Spearmen of the Swallow. I'm not too sure what they've been taking pot shots at the whole time, but I do see a few dead Easterling slingers on the ground over here. It looks like there's potentially another assault underway, about to be mounted into this area. So this is going to be interesting. Very numbers versus numbers focused here, aside from Valinor, of course. Catapults looking to get some value. I don't know what they're going to hit. Oh, that would be nice. Not bad. They do get the Sons of Ulfang here. Every one of them that dies is a boon to the other side, certainly. They're very deadly. There's a lot more kind of juicier targets here, and I think this is really going to come down to the numbers. So hopefully the defenders are going to find some means of thinning things out. Oh, brutal there. Those despoilers really taking on the chin, losing 10 out of a unit of 143. Foragers really... Oh, a big heaping pile of charred corpses that they're leaving behind. Nice shots there from Belegost's catapult. Let's go ahead and we're going to turn it up a little bit here. The catapult's going to keep on doing its thing. And then down here, this is... Oh, there's another catapult over here. A little bit of... I was going to say friendly fire, but actually, I think the guardsmen of the harp are being thrown under the bus here a little bit. But it seems to be working. Dragon Guard of Dorloman still nearby. They've probably got their ammunition. Well, it's like these... Ooh, those spearmen changed their mind here. Now they're going to go at the Dragon Guard. Let's see if Captain Gervais catches it in time. This would be a great opportunity. Might as well use some of those throwing axes. You'll probably take a few of them down. You might even rout them off with the help of that catapult. There's certainly a possibility. No, I don't think they've been given any explicit orders. So I don't think they're going to be able to use their ammunition before these guys crash into them. Ooh. No, they're going to fall back. Might not have been a bad time to try it. Especially with that shake in there. A good volley from those axes might have been enough to rout them off. But they're going to crash into the spearmen of the Swallow here. Or at least threaten to do so. Oh no, they're just going right on in. Wow. That is an accurate artillery crew. The Elf Hunters trying to put some damage into the catapult here. Get rid of this little machine gun nest if they can. Those Wardens are not going to have a good time. More Wardens pouring in, however. And this position, I think, has been officially lost. Spearmen doing their best. Some of these tribesmen, though, not doing terribly well. Someone was looking at routing. Who was it? Was it you? It looks like they've stabilized. These tribesmen here might go, though. Yeah, those Noldor are very resilient. Ulfsark's probably not a good place for them to be, but there are some juicy engagements they could be thrown into, especially when debriding the troops that are in here, cutting them to little pieces. Halberdiers just kind of setting up, and so far things are still a little bit slow. Still taking it easy. You don't really want to overcommit in sieges like this. Looks like Valinor has taken this position here relatively bloodlessly. There's not a whole lot that Mr. Gervais unfortunately has available to him. Although some of these herdsmen are in the fray. They might not do too bad here against the Peacekeepers. At the very least if they can surround them, but they have some very high melee defense. And of course they are armor piercing in return with multiple HP. So I don't know if the herdsmen will be able to do this completely on their own, at least not kind of stacked up the way they are. Dragon Hunters have now been brought forward. Some Mariners of Aquilonde. This is a good opportunity, I think, to maybe just surge forward and kind of let the chips fall where they may. See if the Dragon Guard can be able to actually toss anything here. Oh, they sure will. Oh, that's going to hurt the Mariners. Hearthguard moving forward. And now these guys are going to be in pretty ugly position. But Marines of Inumar using their very valuable javelins on... Actually, it looks like the Hearthguard of Tyrion. Oh, they've luckily got some Teleri Stooges to body block for them. And now Captain Gervais is going to siege forward. I think this is a good idea. Just get in here, try and take down whatever number of them that you can. There's not really a lot of support here, so there's not really too many things that can stop you. And you might just be able to drag down a lot of these Valinor units just with sheer numbers, especially the Shoal Hunters here. You don't want to leave them unmolested for too long, especially against the Blade Masters. Not armor piercing, but again, that volume of fire, it really does make a difference. Let's go ahead and slow it down just a little bit here. Yeah, a couple of them will fall to those. Pop back on over to the other side, see how things are doing. I'm not sure this assault is quite underway yet, but they are very, very close to being ready. Herdsmen of Hithlum sparring with the Fangs of the Faithless. Might as well use them. Lots of good targets here, but there's only so many of the Fangs of the Faithless, so might as well use them to try and provoke a little bit of a reaction here from these Herdsmen of Hithlum. At least I think they're firing at the Fangs of the Faithless. Let's find out. Oh, they sure are. Yep, this is probably what I would use them for as well. Honestly, just trying to soak up a little bit of that archer damage, which can be so deadly for the rest of the Ulfang army. Looks like some ballista being brought forward to probably take out some catapults, I would say, or maybe even harass these poor herdsmen back here. Up front, it looks like the catapult's trying its best to do what it can. A whole lot of scary units being thrown in here. I think I saw the Ulfsarks in there as well. Yeah, this line is not going to hold well, and you don't necessarily want to throw the armorers in there. The armorers could probably deal with them. Actually, it looks like they've got their hands full, to be perfectly honest. Boar under Panthen, pushing in here, tying up many of these resources. This is looking like a tough game, and while they're doing that, they are able to push into another choke point here. I think this could be the downfall of the defenders, to be perfectly honest. I currently can't see how they're going to win this. I don't know if they have the quality, I don't know if they have the numbers. And certainly the attackers do. They've got the ability to really spread them thin in a lot of places, which opens up a lot of opportunities for breakthrough. So, not too sure how they plan to pull this off, but there is still hope, of course. And I would love to know where that thing is shooting from. Oh, goodness! That is an accurate ballista for sure. Really, really good artillery crew there. They deserve a raise. And I think there's not too much else going on here. So let's pop on over to the center, and it looks like maybe things are starting to finally get underway here. Ulfang bringing forward some of the marauders, and they're going to just pick at these herdsmen who, honestly, they're probably here to die, to be perfectly frank. There's a lot of mid-range missile fire, and this is a really good unit for soaking it up. With the shields and with their numbers and the relatively low cost, yeah, this is probably the way to do it. Oof, yeah, another brutal shot. Look at that. They're just disciplined, though, falling rank by rank. Oh, that's going to be ugly. They probably lose like 30 or 40 men in that. Yep, there you go. But at least it's not going into something else that they care about, like the Marines of Inumar. That being said, it is opening a lot of holes in the line here. And I don't see any reserves to potentially replace them. Some counterfire here from the Marines of Inumar going into the Marauders of Imring. Not the most efficient use of their armor piercing, but I guess there's really only so many targets. Probably would have been nicer to toss it in here, really put the nail in the coffin, and allow them to maybe move a little bit of units elsewhere, or at least force the attackers to come in more in here. Armors of Hammer not doing well against the halberds, which is about what you would expect. Halberds, and especially armor piercing polearm units in general, thanks to Spearwall, can be extremely dangerous. It really is a force multiplier, and they can punch well above their body weight, especially with that AP. So, yeah, something to be aware of. Unfortunately, I don't think that Belagas is going to be able to hold this position for too much longer. It really does seem like it's all kind of crumbling very, very quickly here. So we're going to pop on over to the Valinor side and see what is to be seen. Sons of Hurin have now been engaged, and they're taking bites out of the Ember Weavers. I would hazard a guess that these charred bodies here are certainly from them. Gondolin has come to the aid of their ally here, Lords of the Golden Flower, now pushing in against the Valinor Peacekeepers, and this is not super tenable for them. They do have some reinforcements. They'll probably help them last quite a while, especially some Shoal Hunters. They can really be a bit of a game-changing unit. And Valinor has kind of driven a bit of a wedge here, almost, between the two allies, cutting them off from their troops over here. So nicely done by Tommy, really just taking on two different players here, or elements of two different players' armies at the very least. Peacekeeper's not really able to really push up through here. I would expect them to be able to grind them down, though, over time. The Herdsmen of Hithlum, looks like they have actually managed to take these guys on in 1v1, which is very, well, it's not that surprising. There is, of course, the spear penalty to be aware of. Yeah, they did better than I thought. But there is actually, I think they're about twice as large, so that could partially explain that. Over here, looks like the Hearthguard have been driven back, and down goes the Valinor General. That's a big deal. The Teleri especially are not going to appreciate that. And I don't know what he's got left, really. Okay, he's got some Grieving Sons. It looks like they've taken a bit of a beating. Not too sure from what. Actually, Fountain Guard. Champions of the Fountain? They've chased them all the way out here. Wow, they really hate these guys. And I don't think they'll be too long for this world, but given their close combat prowess and their high numbers and the fact that these guys don't have AP melee to really counter them, they might not do too bad. They might take down, maybe 15, 20 of them. Overall, though, it looks like Captain Gervais is going to hold it, which is probably a good thing. Oh, brutal. Nicely done by Tommy here. Found that little gap in the armor, and he's just really driving the knife into it as hard as he can. This would be a time to maybe throw some of the Champions of the Fountain in here. Try and catch them, but they would just retreat and leave them overextended, so maybe not the best idea. But he could get in here with Champions of the Fountain, take both of these units here, force them to retreat at the very least. And in go the Shoal Hunters with their AP, hoping to maybe get some work done. But they're really being fed into the meat grinder here. Just watch. Watch these Shoal Hunters begin to die off. Yeah, they're not really too sure where they can go. Oh, I see. They're trying to get up here. Sneaky. Very sneaky indeed. Less of them died during that than I would have thought, being that close to the Champions of the Fountain. Let's see what they're able to accomplish here. Let's go ahead and slow it down just a little bit. I'm sure there's other things going on. That's an excellent position for them to be in. Champions of the Fountain going to take this opportunity to get into the Mariners of Alqualande, and they're going to absolutely shred them. That's not even going to be a contest at all. This is great, though. This is an opportunity for Tommy to kind of avenge the destruction of his army elsewhere. Oh, brutal. Very nicely done here. Excellent maneuvering, good use of the high ground. Of course, he's unbeatable because he has the high ground, Anakin. And we're going to pop on over to the other side. Leave it on that cliffhanger note. Let's see what's going on here. It looks like Fingolfin has been forced into a bit of a full retreat. Now, I think there's still some Gondolin units back here. A few units, yeah, the catapult crew got caught. More of them. And this position is just completely overrun, as we kind of knew it would be. I did see the Ulfsarks in here, though. I want to know how many numbers they've managed to preserve throughout this. 29. All right. So, 3/4 of the unit left. Not bad. Not bad at all. Guardsmen of the Harp fighting to the death. And this position was taken, I think, relatively efficiently. It's a lot of armors with the hammer. I think 3 units of them died here. That's a big deal. I don't know how they're going to recover from that. That's really an ace in the hole unit, especially when fighting against the heavily armored troops of Boar and, to a lesser extent, Valinor. Yeah, I think that's about it for them. So let's pop over here and see what sort of new lines they're going to try to establish over here in the city. Let's take a moment to take stock of what the defenders still have remaining to them. Got some Marines of Vinumar there. Got another catapult that they managed to save. Don't know how much ammunition it has. A big brick of elite Fingolfin swordsmen moving down to take on Valinor, probably to finish them off for good. Lords of the Golden Flower, still up here. Could have sworn we saw them elsewhere, so maybe he's got 2 units of Lords of the Golden Flower. Huh. Phalanx of the King. And I don't know. Oh, got some Scouts of the Tree here. What the hell? Gondolin troops coming out of nowhere. Now, Valinor looks like they've been just completely forced out of the city. Grieving Sons trying to get what value they can. Mariners. Oh, wow. This guy's still out here, eh? 7 of them. Hacking down anything they can get their hands on. Still some of the Grieving Sons in here getting butchered by these two-handed swordsmen. Wow. That, like, kind of Alpha Strike unit just really came out here and somehow managed to do a significant amount of damage and still make it through to the end. Very impressive. Testament to their tenacity, for sure. A little holdout of Valinor here. Doing what they can, throwing axes, however, telling these Shoal Hunters how they feel about it. Looks like they're maybe going after Dragon Guard up there. It's not a bad idea. Some other javelins being tossed from units from who knows where. Oh, it's the Peacekeepers. What do you know? Looks like... Actually, maybe Tommy's starting to take it back a little bit here. So there is going to be a significant Valinor holdout that they're going to have to commit resources in order to be able to destroy. And that is going to drain them a little bit more of their already dwindling numbers. Down go the Grieving Sons. So Valinor, down but not quite out, but nearly at the point where I think they may have to tap out. Ooh. Oh. Well, that's a very nice perch indeed. Let's see what happens. Of Hithlum Spears here kind of being thrown under the bus a little bit. Let's see if it's going to be worth it, though. Come on, catapult, show me what you got. No, not today. Well, that was disappointing. Wow. They really hated that guy in particular. This is a much... Yeah, he probably needs to reevaluate his target here. I think he's trying to shoot at the Fangs of the Faithless, but it ended up targeting Stragglers, because sometimes the medieval AI does that, and it's quite dumb. Let's see, though. I need to know. This could be a pretty nice screenshot for the thumbnail. So let's see if that catapult is going to do it one more time for us. Yep. Looks like maybe Fingolfin's starting to abandon the position here. Nicely done. That's a good one. Maybe we'll use that in the thumbnail after all. Go ahead, turn it down just a little bit. See. Yeah, I think the defenders are in pretty big trouble here. Unless they've got some hidden units that I'm completely unaware of and just couldn't see. Yeah, this is going to be really ugly. Although they are, I think, going to be able to bleed some important Ulfang units here. There's, like, a critical mass, right? Look at that. Even if they kill every single one of those, there's a horde of troops. A literal barbarian horde cresting the summit of that hill. And some artillery pieces as well to maybe shut them off. And then Boar is just in the ascendant, right? Very minimal damage was able to be done to them because of how strong those halberds are in those choke points, which I mentioned at the beginning of the game. So it's gonna be a tough one. I don't think the defenders have what it takes here. Not with a 20%. Not with the attackers having a 20% lead. That being said, they also have an extra army, so account for that. This victorious. 7 of them walking back over the corpses of their foes. Yeah, no problem. Let's see, are they going to be able to kind of finish Tommy here? Probably. Absolutely. Armitar already breaking through. They're more than a match for tired and outnumbered and depleted Hearthguard. Some sentries coming in to kind of block these guys. And there's already a unit of Mariners here, boxing in the Shoal Hunters. This is going to be it. It's going to be the last stand of Valinor here. But I think they did their job. Tommy really punched above his weight class here. He was taking on, significant detachments from 2 armies, mostly from Fingolfin. And yeah, he did his job. He did his job for sure. He bled the defenders of numbers that they desperately needed. And I think he did it as best as he could have been expected to do here with his comp and with the task ahead of him. Having to assault these fortifications is no joke. Got some routing. Down go the Shoal Hunters. Might be enough to maybe rout off some of these Hearthguard here. And then hopefully the defenders can rally. Get the troops back as quickly as they can. Oh, dearie me. Some square-shaped fire has engulfed this catapult, and that's going to be it for it. Looks like they are falling back. It's probably out of ammunition anyway. But this is a bit of a problem, obviously. There's not really anything here to hold the line, to give these guys a line of retreat. Now, maybe they can get around the back. Yes, they can. Okay, so all is not lost for them, because this could not hold the square. Not against what's arrayed against them. Phalanx of the King. That's going to be nice, though. And we've still got some decent AP units here. Fangs of the Faithless in close pursuit. And these guys just like, what, you want us to fight the rest of the army on our own? I guess we could do that. They'd probably win, too. Goodness. I saw some Ulfsarks in there who I think are still losing their mind. Yeah, there they are. Still Berserk, so they're just going to run their little butts in there. Probably kill these guys in 2 seconds. Oh yeah, probably rout them off as well. Scouts of the tree, what are you gonna do? Now's not a bad time to charge in with those herdsmen. I think that the Fangs of the Faithless here would probably run, and they might not come back. I think they're gonna do that anyway, though. And off they go. Scouts, I think, just used the last of their ammunition. Unfortunate. No one's going to pursue these guys, so they actually might rally and become a problem for later. I would definitely have tried to go after them. Yeah, this is a tough one. I don't think the defenders have anything left that can really deal with them. That being said, the Ulfsarks here really just... Oh, they actually regain control of them at the perfect time. Because if they have just gone in there and gone closer, then they could have taken out the Ulfsarks, which are a big force multiplier. So that would have been excellent for the defenders. Oh, what do you know? Scouts do have some ammunition after all. Put a little bit of damage into the Ulfsarks there. They may have another opportunity to do so against the incoming despoilers, but they don't want to stay there and shoot off, I think, more than one. More than one would certainly see them caught. I don't know if Belegos is going to see it. Oh, here we go. What's going on here? What's going on here? I want to know. Oof. That is nasty. But there's enough of them, they're not really going to care. Herdsmen probably should be thrown in, maybe. I don't know if I want to lose these guys. Oh, another point-blank volley into the despoilers. Absolutely shredding them. They're exhausted. This might not be a... Yeah, this is an excellent time to just attack these guys on the flank. Just go for it. Are the Ulfsarks going to go berserk? Yep, there they go. And these spoilers here, not having the best time. The Ulfsarks are exactly where they need to be a really big pain. Oh, I thought they were kind of mixed in here a little bit more, but apparently they are not. See if we can get those little spin to win animations on display here today. Are they still berserk? Yes, they sure are. Oh yeah, I can see it in the background there. Look at them go! It's ridiculous. There's another one. Really putting the hurt on these guys. And this is really just the vanguard, isn't it? Because we look down the hill. Oh, Boar is already on their way. Yeah, I think there's no hope for the defenders here. I think it's just a little bit too much. That being said, what we got left over here? Tired, exhausted troops that need to run up a big hill in order to get back to the lines. No bueno. And of course, some of them will need to be left behind, because Boar could absolutely exploit that and go up around the back. Let's go ahead and turn it up. Back to full speed. And they're doing their best. The spoilers are being whittled away. And the Ulfsarks are taking some more casualties, but it's too uneven. There's a lot to ask. The phalanx of the king are very strong, don't get me wrong. That's a lot to ask to have them hold back all of this stuff. I think they're going to be committed now as well. Might as well, especially with their own pole arms coming in. What choice do they have, truly? That's going to leave. Catapult. Now, what happened to the other Lord unit? I thought there was two of them. It can't have died. There's no way. Okay, it's right here. Dragon Guard and all the other things coming up the back. There's enough here to make a good stand. Certainly to put up a fight. But I don't think it's going to be enough. That being said, where's the Golden Flower? Very scary. Is there still Sons of Hurin in here? No? Did they all die off? Alas, they did. So really, this is the last big ace in the hole, and they're a little bit winded. But I don't think that there's a lot of tricks left on the attacking side. I don't think they've got some, hordes of missile units and artillery and so forth. So the Lords of the Golden Flower should be able to be given a chance to kind of rest a little bit, get them back up to maybe at the very least active. this is really it. And there's some very tired troops in the back here. Is it going to be enough? I don't think so. But I suppose we will see. We're really just down to this last kind of choke point here. So while we wait for things to reach a more decisive pitch, let's take a look at the various levels of defense offered by each of these, by the red team over here. They did their best. They really had a lot of things to defend. This is not an easy place to handle when you're outnumbered. So they were attacked basically everywhere that they could be attacked, held on as long as they possibly could. I think if I were to remake this map, I would want to see these more numerous means of ingress, kind of on the outer area here, and then it gets a little bit tighter as you go in, rather than having 2 here, and then like 4, 5, or something like that in here. It's a lot to ask the defenders to try and defend when they've already been reduced by being pushed back from the initial layer. So, interesting. They did their best. They certainly had the numbers, I think, necessary. An elite army here with not a lot of troops would have fared much worse. Wanderers. Oh yeah, there's still more of them out here, eh? This did not go well for them at all. That being said, killing 60% of them when you're this outnumbered, that's not nothing, for sure. Sons of Wolfang. Still very healthy, though. Yeah. And the herdsmen and the phalanx are being slowly but surely driven back. Hopefully they can at least give some of these units enough time to rest. You know what I mean? Are the attackers going to be particularly cruel and bring troops up the back? Yes, they are. Up comes Nifri the Shadow Hunter with a not insignificant detachment. And more Ulfsarks. I had no idea he had a second unit. Well, that's pretty rough. Let's witness this valiant last stand here. That's the least we can do for the defenders, who had a really rough game the whole time, is witness their glorious end. If they were just, kind of pushing in this one area, maybe it wouldn't have been that bad. Warmed up. Yeah, I can see where he wants to go with those Lords of the Golden Flower. It's not a bad idea. Some slightly floating rocks here. Gravity magic at play. General Radon somewhere on the battlefield. Some Salamander Dragon Hunters, actually a detachment halberd, a little bit more elite than your standard halberd. Yeah, this is really where I think the Lords of the Golden Flower would like to be, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to get in there, so being somewhat blocked by the low rock walls there. Yeah, even they are not going to be able to make a difference. Armitar, however, is it just Armitar in there? Might be 2 units of Armitar. Oh, Armitar and Harumitar. There you go. The best of the best being committed over here onto the left wing of the defenders. We'll see what they can do. See how much they can grind it out and bring that percentage back. This will be a bit of a problem. I'd say normally they'd be able to just beat this down, but it's the presence of the Ulfsarks. And a full health unit of Ulfsarks, no less. Alright, let's see what they can do. I'd also try not to give the Ulfsarks a charge. You can just get in there. Like, it might not be the worst idea. Sometimes, like, a counter charge will do just fine, and they won't even go berserk, and then they just have, like, crappy, expensive light infantry. This would be not the worst plan, but it doesn't seem like they're too interested in that. I think they should just go for it. Like, get those Blade Masters down there 1-to-1 without the berserk. The Blade Masters are going to knock these guys around real good. But perhaps already demoralized, resigned to their inevitable defeat, the defenders aren't willing to do so. I think they should. The Armitar really took it on the chin from something there. I don't know what it was. Harassment javelins, not so bad. I want to know how well these lords here are going to do. Let's get in there. Let's get down and dirty in there. And they are cutting people up real nice. It's also when they activate those kill animations, they become temporarily invincible. So it can really allow small units like this to just hit hard and not take as many casualties as you'd expect in return. Oh wow, yeah, they're cutting these boar halberdiers and axemen up real nice. I don't think it's gonna be enough though. Ambroni honor guard, probably fresh. Oh well, winded. They have put up a good fight. I think the Phalanx of the King basically non-existent at this point. Bringing it back slowly. What do we got going on over here? They managed to catch the Ulfsarks? Nope. They got their charge off, so they're going to go berserk. And they're just going to side their way through a lot of these guys. That being said, they are quite fragile. They take a lot of damage. All berserker units do. They take a lot of damage in return. Especially when they, get into the middle of a group like that. And they can, unless they're doing the spin animation, they can still be stunned. So, yeah, I've seen some of them get cut down there. But it's just not enough. Like I said, they went from 43 to 28 pretty fast. 26, 25, damn. I can see the fragility there, the relative fragility of the berserker units for whom offense is the only defense. That's a good one. Maybe I'll take that as the thumbnail instead. I like this, a little bit more visceral. That one. There we go. They're doing their best. Those Ulfsarks, rather, are really reaping a terrible toll. Armitar coming in to tell them what they think about that. Rumatar being left on the other side. Oh, there goes the Boar General. Let's see what kind of state they are in. A lot of exhausted troops here, but they are winning. Oh, the Lords, though. Man, they're wrecking things. Really mixing it up here. I don't think there's going to be enough pressure to make Boar rout, though. Even though they are quite exhausted. They just lost their general. I don't think there's enough pressure to really put them in any danger of having their troops flee. But still, it's a nice pick. Oh, wow. The defenders are really resurgent here. I don't think this is going to last for too long, but look at them go. Thin line of swordsmen just cutting their way through the attackers, and they kind of just came up here in a big blob, which not the most efficient means of actually approaching this position, but I suppose they aren't quite confident at this point in the game, and they have every reason to be. Let's see if they can bring it up. Maybe they can get to 75. That'd be really impressive, but of course this is happening. I think the Ulfsarks still in? No, the Sons of Ulfang have entered the fray. And along with the Ulfsarks, that's going to be game over. So any sort of... Oh, there's Fingolfin. This is actually where their general is, so this will be the end of the Fingolfin defense of Captain Gervais. They were quite vigorous. They did their best. But just not enough numbers. It really, this comes down to numbers. I don't think they necessarily played poorly. I think maybe there was some more important troops committed against Boar in positions where they shouldn't have been, and that was definitely a big problem. Losing the armorers the way that they did, that's a big deal. But overall, it wasn't like catastrophically bad play. Just not enough troops. 3v2s or anything like this where the defender or whoever is outnumbered by an extra army, it's pretty tricky to get it right with the funds and the number of players, and you need the right map and all kinds of stuff. So, not too surprised. But damn, those Lords of the Golden Flower. Look at them go! And there goes the big Dolphin General. Man, they've really cut their way in here. With the support of those swordsmen, they're not doing bad. Oh, now these guys have to get out of there, though. Can't allow the Ulfsarks in there. And now their position is just going to be completely swamped, utterly overrun. Well, maybe they'll be able to take down the Ulfsarks. Oh, they're kind of cutting them to pieces. Oh, yeah. Oh, just bouncing these guys back and forth towards the Golden Flower, doing what they can. Down goes Turgon. That might actually be enough to make them rout here. Oh yeah, it is. Oof. Annihilated. Yep. That's going to be it. 99-71. I have to say, the defenders put up an excellent fight here. This is a tough map to defend with 2 armies against 3. I think this would have been a lot more interesting as a 3v3. But it could be they just weren't able to find a 6th player. But they did well. They did very well. Let's kind of see the result here. That is a hell of a last stand. A brutal, brutal grind. All the way to the finish. Well done to everybody who participated. I thought it was an entertaining game nonetheless. Let's see how they did. As well as could be expected, I think. Given the troops arrayed against them for sure. Let's see what did what for a Nifrier. I bet you the Ulfsarks did an incredible amount of damage, yeah. And everything else, most things just kind of did okay, but a lot of the killing power really came from those Ulfsarks. So if they were able to shut those down early, or at least like reduce them in number, that might have potentially made this game last a little bit longer. I don't think it would have been decisive, but for sure would have made it a little bit closer. In any case, my name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Hope you guys enjoyed this game, and I hope you will join me for the next game I have coming out, which I believe is a 3v3 field battle. So, yeah, I'll see you guys then. Take care, everybody.